Good morning. Today's entire worship service is centered on the mental health journey of a man called Legion. And we're using it as a useful parallel to the mental health crises of today. Now, in the Bible, the basic story is this. Jesus arrives at a village. He's confronted by a man nicknamed Legion because that man is possessed by many demons. Jesus heals Legion, sending the demons into a herd of pigs that go mad, running off a cliff to their demise, which makes the people of the village both angry and scared. But, as the Bible puts it, at least Legion is healed. He is in his right mind. Jesus tells Legion to use his own story to help others. Everything in today's service is connected to this story of a mental health crisis 2,000 years ago and the hope for healing today. Even our call to worship begins with a few words from Legion himself to introduce himself to you. So turn in your bulletins to page 2, our responsive call to worship, and you'll see there are parts for Legion, me, and for our deacon, Adam Simon, and for you. I am Legion, so named for being full of demons. In every land and every time, I am fated to be feared. I am the human house for every frailty and fault and failure. I am me and you and your best friend, your cousin, your neighbor, your hero. I am misnamed, yet it is correct. I am we, and I'm here to tell you what the Lord has done for me.
Holy God, we come to church to understand. There's much that mystifies us about life, people, behavior, and about you, God of our church and our worship. We need to know you, your will, your way.
Yes, we come to understand the fullness of life in mind, spirit, and body. We come to understand the art of healing from faith and medicine. We come to understand how to love our way through every difficulty and to live the fullness of shalom.
Help us today, Lord, especially as we remember those who are broken in spirit, those who struggle to find your truest shalom, those who need and will welcome your healing by any means.
Loving God, we are your people, we are your church. We embody the best of your desires for each and every one, and we will not tire. Amen.
Please note the words we're about to sing. This hymn was specially chosen to match the spirit of the Legion story. Please open your hymnals to number 618, to hymn 618.
Shall A soul that on Jesus still leans for repose. I will not desert to its foes. So though all hell shall endeavor to shrink, I'll never, no, never, no, never forsake. You may be seated. Indeed, we welcome you to Sunday worship at Greenfield Hill Church. We're so pleased to have you as a part of our church family and our worshiping community today. We always hope that our time spent together is a time that will deepen our faith and strengthen our fellowship together. We do ask you to pick up the sort of blue-colored pad on the center aisles and sign in and pass it down the aisles if you don't mind. And if you're a visitor here today, especially a warm welcome to you, and the deacons have prepared a visitor packet in the narthex that will let you know more about the life and ministry of our church, and the bulletin itself, of course, is packed with items of interest for the days and weeks ahead in our church ministry. For those who may have missed the opening, let me summarize by using the first inside page of the bulletin, which is another explanation of today's service. Legion is the biblical story of a man filled with many demons. In ancient times, when much about illness, whether mental or physical, was still a mystery, demons were the explanations for life's tragedies and disappointments and temptations, i.e., demon rum or the devil made me do it. Demons, as the agents of the evil force of the devil, are in contrast to angels, who are the agents of the good force of God. Even today, many people attribute demons as the cause of havoc in personal and societal life. Jesus did not challenge the diagnoses of his day and the culture of his time. Instead, he brought wholeness to the untouchables of his day, the demon-possessed, the lepers, the unclean, the outcast, the foreigner, the stranger, the enemy, the disliked, and the feared. By such love, we see the hope for each life in every generation, no matter the circumstance. In my short story, Legion, he adds, or I add, a layer of content and imagination while still true to the Bible verses that it is based on. The issues that arise in today's epidemic of the full range of mental illnesses are present in this story. Stigma and isolation and fear and trauma and family dynamics and societal confusion and personal frustration. Our Shalom ministry and my story aim to smash the stigma and bring people to what Jesus brought to Legion, true Shalom. So this story will be presented in 3 parts. The first part is about 9 minutes. The second and third parts are about 6.5 minutes each. There will be an opportunity. We can discuss it during the coffee hour. There'll be a more formal talk back following the 10:30 service in the parlor. The Shalom ministry that's already been referenced a couple of times is a Hebrew word that is much more than peace. It refers to the absolute fullness of wholeness. When you wish someone shalom, you're wishing them every possible good in their daily life and their family life. And so we took that as the name for our mental health ministry. And next Sunday, following the 10:30 service, in other words, around 11:30, we will have a luncheon discussion in the memorial room across the way. So there'll be lunch and then just an opportunity to discuss together based on 3 questions. If you so choose, and nobody's going to be required to do so, but if you so choose, you can tell us what either you or some of your loved ones have faced in the world of mental health, and what has been an obstacle during that journey and what has found to be helpful. Our Bible study has started a new theme, the parables of Jesus. That's Thursday mornings at 10 o'clock in the parlor. So our story begins after a visitor has come to town. He's heard about Jesus, he's heard about Legion and about the demons, and he wants to see for himself what has happened. So Legion begins talking. Look around you. It's nice, isn't it? Little village, picturesque, bustling, life all around, growing. Caves up there a little bit, we call them tombs, sort of scary. The lake over there, lots of memories. People get along here nice enough for the most part when things are going well. I was the fly in the ointment for a while, the upsettler, a neighbor called me, the upsettler. Then neighbors started calling me Legion, and it wasn't meant as a compliment. It was an insult to mask their fear, and we're all good at masks, aren't we? Some are scarier. My mask is Legion, and I've kept that name as a badge of honor, even with its political overtones, maybe especially because of its political overtones, with the Roman eagle everywhere all over Israel. Harassment from them at the village well, harassment at the marketplace, harassment at the temple. Yes, worship is a political act. Paying taxes and bribes, that's political. Walking the extra mile to carry the bag of a Roman soldier or to refuse, that's political. Being crazy, turns out that's political. Anything that attracts attention, anything that gathers a crowd, anything that disrupts business, anything that stirs up a village, that's all crazy political. And I was all of the above. And the Romans don't like political. So, a Jew named Legion, I like that. Legion, we are many, I used to say, still do. We are many. Now look at me. What do you see? A young man of indeterminate age, 18, 38, let's say 28. Weathered, right? Weathered by weather, man-made or human-made. An eternity living in the tombs will do that to you. Was it years, months, minutes? A lifetime in torment can be lived in a moment. And yet now I sit here with you in the center of town, and people greet us easily, if warily. Shalom, they say. Peace at last, they whisper. But how long, they wonder. Well, at least I'm now in my right mind. That's the official diagnosis from everybody in the village and from the rabbi who decides such things. In my right mind, as if they would know. The things people do in this town in their right mind give right mind a bad name. So you want to know my story, the story of the crazy man and the pigs and the Holy One. Oh, and of course the demons. Everyone wants to know about the demons. Come, sit, we'll talk. I'll talk. You listen. It was a day like any other day. Isn't that how the great stories always begin? Well, what is a day like any other day for most people, for you? You slept well. You wake up. Someone who cherishes you lies next to you. You get up, you wash, sounds of life everywhere, the smells of breakfast and breakfast itself, and then there's work to do, work for others, work with others, work for yourself. Pride and payment go together. People greet you with respect. They're glad to see you, know you. And at the end of the day, a warm embrace awaits you, just a day like any other day. That was not my day or any day. Mine, troubled sleep. Unwelcome voices, the only smell, my own stench. The only sound was in my own head. The only pity threw food my way. No one lay next to me. There was no embrace at the end of the day. And in between, there was no pride or payment. For me, that was a day like any other day. But you want to know about the day when it all changed for me, right? Well, I greeted that day over by the cliff. Perhaps you know the place where the pigs are? Sometimes the good people of this village, they would herd me over to the cliff, taunt me, dare me to throw myself off the cliff to end my own misery and theirs. It was tempting sometimes. Sometimes I felt that cliff calling to me. That's how terrifying I was to them and to myself. You don't understand, do you? You can't imagine being an outcast to your own people, to all of your own people, despised, feared, shunned, shamed. Yes, some were softer. He's a bit odd, they might say, a little off, not quite normal. I hated the words that they would throw at me and the looks. The kinder ones would say, not too public, "You're not to blame, Legion." But I was a problem. People grow tired of a problem, even the kinder ones. Now, underlying it all was one assumption: demons. Demons. Little devils doing the devil's work. You know the word possessed? Possessed means to be owned, controlled, paid for, body and soul. You are not your own person. You're not yourself. You're beside yourself. Do I need to draw a picture for you? I am a freak. People stared, ran, hid, pointed, blamed. I stared, ran, hid, pointed, blamed. Everyone was afraid of what they couldn't understand. I was afraid of what I couldn't understand. People spat, cursed, mocked. I spat, cursed, mocked. They were afraid it could be them or theirs, and then what? I was the then what? I was the fear that maybe there's no end to this. But now, well, I'm the hope that fear can end. On that day, the day you're wondering about, on that day, fear ended. And so on that day, resisting the lure of the cliff, once again, I headed into town because I could. Now, the social contract had been that the crazy guy was supposed to stay to himself in the caves, in the tombs. Driven by their fear, my neighbors had chained me to a wall in the tombs among the dead, fed by scraps who felt good throwing food at me. I was too many crazinesses for them. Legion, remember, means many, too many. But I broke the chains, and then I walked into town to spite everyone. Nobody wanted me there, but they couldn't do anything about it because they were afraid. I had broken loose of the chains and of them and their opinions and their sneers. How, you ask? How do you break from shackles and chains and tombs? How do men become strong, or women, or an upsettler? Well, no secret there. You push against things that can't be moved until they move. And chains break and walls crumble. I won't be demonized, I said many times. So that day, the day you want to know about, I walked into town. Broken shackles handling from my wrists, rattling. The townspeople were afraid of me. They didn't like me. I could care less. That's what I told myself to keep my sanity. You get it? Legion, the crazy man, keeping his sanity. I kept my sanity that day by going where I used to go when I was just a friend, a neighbor, a relative, a worker, a son, a person before. Before the voices and the urges and the passions and the thoughts. On a good day, I used to wonder if such things were gifts, the voices and the thoughts. I had a friend in the tombs. I actually freed him from the walls, and he would draw 100 paintings in the daylight hours on the walls or in the dirt, outside, inside, intricate, wondrous, holy. He would sit or squat or stand and then kneel, draw one, erase it, draw another, make additions, corrections, do another, leave some. When he saw people approaching, he'd run back in and pretend to attach himself to the wall. The people never wondered about the drawings. Demons, they assured themselves with earnest conviction. I hated them. I was free enough to hate. So yes, I chose to go into town that day like any other day, but it wasn't to be like any other day for me, for them, for us. That day, the hate ended. The demons died. Maybe they are the same thing. Ignoring the stairs, maybe reveling in them, I passed through the market and I settled myself near the well. Our world is a world of clean and unclean. What's right, what's not right. What's Jewish, what's kosher, what's clean, what's normal, versus everything else. And I represented everything else. My being there made the whole town feel unclean. Goody for them.
Not easy to follow. We're going to go into our time of prayer. There's a prayer that's printed in your bulletin. This is something that we're asking you to read to yourself, to think through as we think about each other. Let's say the prayer together, the ideal prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
On that day, lost in my own reverie of bitterness, I was slow to feel his presence. I admit it. Him, the guy from Nazareth, Jesus. It was an atmospheric change, like a breath, like a wind breezed through. I noticed that before I actually noticed him. It's been a long time since anybody sat close to me downwind. Now, when an immovable object meets an irresistible force, something's going to give, right? Sparks will fly, something will get broken, the irresistible will get resisted, and the immovable will get moved. When two rams butt against each other, the result is not going to be neutral. They may both retreat, they may both have headaches, they may both ram again, but something always gives, always. And on this day, I could sense something was definitely going to give. That day, that moment was going to be my Armageddon, us versus them. Whatever forces owned me against whatever forces he could muster. Good versus evil? No, don't go there. I was not evil. Yet someone's end was coming. And that does not happen peacefully. Seen or unseen, heard or unheard. It felt like angels and demons in Ezekiel's valley of dry bones. Before they were bones, they were soldiers. Rage, fear, even faith, all in a tormented whirlwind, all mixed up together. What happened? Well, we went right after him. Yes, we, plural. I'm legion, remember? The many of me, all the voices and the moods and the emanations and all the directions and sequences and the ideations of me. The we who knew that he knew. So let's not mince words. We went right after him. We wanted to know what he was up to. He wanted to know my name. Don't hurt us, we said. Change can hurt. Looking in the mirror can hurt. However troubled or troubling village folks thought I was, it was still me. And so it hurt when people judged that or hated that or ran away from that. It was still me. And to lose that threat felt like the day when neighbors and playmates and friends took me to the edge of the cliff. Yet this was different. He was different. He wasn't afraid of me or we or us or them or crazy or political or different. Maybe he believed in what could be. Maybe he believed in me. What's your name? Jesus asked. A simple and ordinary and respectful and time-honored offer to know, especially for someone who had not had a simple or ordinary or respectful or time-honored offer for a long time. Legion, I told him. Welcome to our world. We are many. I had used my name as a threat for so long I was not ready for him to find it charming or witty. Legion, he repeated, looking right at me. Not through me, as enlightened holy ones are said to do. He was there for me, not we. Legion, he said with a smile. It's time to make one out of many. Jesus turned to his friends who were standing near us. To my surprise, they seemed neither afraid nor put off, and they gave him some bread and fish, which he broke into pieces, and he gave some to me. And hearing gasps from the village, I may have over-dramatized my gratitude a little too loudly. Thank you, I exclaimed. It's nothing, just some leftovers, he said to put me at ease. Just some leftovers. We ate side by side, casual as could be, normal. Now there's a rare word in my life. How did you find me? I asked. Well, we walked into town. People were talking about you. People said to me, you're the healer, right? Some sort of holy man, a savior. Well, save us from the crazy man. Crazy man. Now you know why I prefer Legion. At least it has some dignity to it. I may have winced. Jesus chuckled nicely. They say you're strong, that you broke your shackles off, he said with some admiration. No trick to that, I explained. They weren't that well made, the idiots. I was chained to a wall in a cave, so I just turned it into a gymnasium. Pull and release, pull and twist, 12 hours a day. Bulks a man up, even a crazy man, right? Eventually, I pulled free from the wall with these chains still hanging off my wrists. They're good for intimidation, but they were never my shackles, I corrected him, just to be sure that he understood. And he nodded. You like intimidating your neighbors? Jesus asked. Now that was a change of tone from this Holy One of God. Was it a question? Was it a statement, an accusation? I didn't like it. Who is my neighbor? I scoffed. I let that hang in the air. He should think about that some before he goes around accusing. Jesus cleared his throat. May I ask you about this? How you became this way, he asked. Crazy, you mean? Isn't that your trade, to know such things? I was back on the offensive. Some things are hidden, Jesus explained with just a hint of a shrug. Some things are hidden. From you? From simplicity. I like that. He was open to more than take him to the tombs, chain him to a wall, feed him scrap, hope he dies. Maybe he did want to understand. So I told him, people said that I was mad from childhood, off, strange, different. Different doesn't do well around here. Listening carefully, he asked, do you think you're mad? I don't think I'm anything that I'm called. Not dangerous, not legion, not crazy. People keep trying to take the speck out of my eye. They don't even bother with a beam in their own eye, blocking their vision. Well, now I had Jesus' attention and interest when he said, so you're not crazy. You're normal. I was ready for this one. Crazy people have been calling me crazy for eternity. Bad people calling me bad. Not normal people calling me not normal. With some earned self-righteousness, I declared, I don't want their normal, not by their standards. See that merchant over there observing us a little too closely? He's a big man in town, one of the ones who took me to the cliff, hoped I'd jump. Him with his crooked weights and measures in his stall, cheats all of his neighbors every day. No, I'm not that normal. I paused, took a deep breath, and then I told him, it's the voices that drive people crazy.
The Apostle Paul encouraged us each to give as we are able. Our morning offering will be received.
It's the voices that drive people crazy. Jesus understood the double meaning even before I meant it. The lion was out of the den. The voices of trouble, aren't they? He said matter-of-factly. Voices can be many things, Legion, many things. Inside, outside, true, false, real. False, you said? Now I was on the defensive. Sure, voices can lie, Jesus said matter-of-factly. Voices come from somewhere, right? From someone. Maybe good, maybe not so good. Of course they can lie. Well, with that power from breaking chains for a living, I grabbed his arm and I pulled him in closer. The onlookers of the village were on edge, took notice. I looked hard into him. After a long moment, he spoke, breaking that little silence with a little parable, perhaps. He says, Legion, you see an old lady at the well. A voice in your head tells you to go over, draw the water from the well, and carry it for her to her home. Another voice tells you, go over, rattle your shackles in her face, and scare her half to death. You don't doubt the voices, I said, amazed. I doubt that you ever say no to them. You can say, yes, sir. You can say, no, thank you. You can call it out. You could say, get thee behind me, Satan. You could call for help from me, if you wish. Voices may ask you to help or to hurt, and you know which is which. Call out to me. Say something like, lead me not into temptation. Deliver me from evil. Prepare a table for me in the presence of these enemies. By then, we were face to face and eye to eye, taking the measure of each other hard. With exasperation, I pointed out, but you're only here now for just a little while, and then you're gone. The truth of reality can dampen hope. Jesus smiled. Don't worry, I'm here long enough. And after, well, voices carry. Use yours. Speaking of which, tell me about your family. I'm dead to them, I answered with a measure of lament and betrayal. When they send you to the tombs, you're dead to them. Then who is that over behind the sycamore tree? A shudder came over me, and then a tear. It was my mother. Ghosts, shadows, specters, smells, tastes, hints, coincidences, miracles, all of that existed in my hell, cursed, demon-possessed, name it, all the names you want to use. After all, I'm Legion, and we knew one thing. We were not alone. Not in the tombs, not in the town. And so, it seems, my mother lurks. God is summoned. Jesus sits next to me. The voices, even my voices, are awake. They, we, I know change is coming. So speaking on everyone's behalf, I, Legion, ask directly, are you here to get rid of us? There's a wind about. Even the pigs are restless, sir. And I said sir in a big way, not sarcastic. Are you here to get rid of us, sir? No, Jesus said, almost smiling. I'm here to get rid of the chains on your wrists. And at this, my fists unclenched. And Jesus breathed in. Now, I know what people say about him, that he speaks and things fly about, that he touches even with his spittle, that he can just stand there and miracles happen. The demons know him by name. They recognize him. They call out to him. They fear him all at the same time. And that when he wants, all hell breaks loose. And that day for me, all hell broke loose. Yes, pigs fly. You may have heard. Right off the cliff. And the townsfolk, it turns out, preferred the old familiar craziness. Some townsfolk. People were nervous and afraid. Jesus was a power unleashed, and, well, I've said before, people don't like power unleashed, especially the Romans and people afraid of the Romans. Pax Romana, you know, is only for the Romana. The cross, the seal on the tomb, the Roman guard, they're for everybody else. At that moment, we, Jesus and I, we were head to head, like gladiators. We were face to face, like lovers. Something would be born, something would die. Our two flesh became one, and Jesus breathed in. And it felt like he reached deep, deep, deep inside of me and grabbed a hold of all that should not be me. And he brought it out and he took it upon himself. And what there was that should not be was now his. He did the possessing. He was possessed. We stood like that for an eternity. Remember, a moment can be eternity. Around us, pigs fly, demons scream, people complain. That's what they say. A normal day in our village, that's what I say. And then, peace, shalom, quiet. When Jesus stood up to leave, I was surprised and surprisingly sad. We embraced one more time, a sign of farewell. I yearned to go with him with every fiber of my being. But Jesus was very insistent. Stay, he said firmly. Stay. People will come to you. They'll seek you out. Others from the tombs, even the tombs in their own houses, and their mothers behind the sycamore trees, and friends who do not want their friends to go near the cliff. Tell them how much the Lord has done for you. Be that mercy for me. Well, I knelt down to touch his feet, and he rested his hands on top of my head and reminded me, don't forget, use your voice. We can talk. That's what voices are for, to help. And then he left. So now, this is my life, my day like any other day. I go to the tombs, or the tombs come to me. We practice pulling against the shackles and crumbling walls, and drawing in the sand without fear. And when voices speak, we learn to say no, unless it is to help an old lady draw water from the well. And together we use our voices to talk to him. And what of him, this Jesus of Nazareth? In this town, we've often talked about the Messiah, the one to save us. We've waited so long, like me, an eternity. And then this one comes along out of nowhere, and I'm the one saved. Was I a stray sheep, a lost son, a crazy man, a sign and wonder, a story to tell? You came asking about demons and pigs and the story of Legion, and perhaps the story is Jesus. Now I must go. Voices are calling.
The DNA of this church is the idea that we carry a Bible in one hand, a newspaper in the other, and we look to be connected to each other. That just happened. That was really incredible. Please use our community benediction. We'll say this in unison. God, bless each home, each hope, each heart. God, bless each spirit without each breath within, each combination thereof. God, bless each journey, each path, each walk. God, bless us in our healing, our helping, our hollowing. Amen.